Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams-Birch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. My name is Dr. Emily Williams-Birch, and I'm really glad that you're listening today. Today we are in part 2 of our Chronicles of a First-Year Teacher. Y'all first heard from Mr. Kyle Feather back in episode 120. Kyle and I met this summer. You learned all about how we met, and I've just been so excited to chronicle his first year of teaching in the classroom. So Kyle reached out after their first concert and was like, okay, I have stuff to do. So this is part 2. He has stuff to share, and it is so much fun. So you might be thinking, okay, Emmy, why would I want to listen to this episode? My first year of teaching is forever away, or I taught my first year a long time ago. This isn't about if you're a first year teacher or not. It's about the stories that are getting us in front of our singers and how we're impacting those singers. So in this episode, we talk about Kyle's first concert, what he learned from that, what's happening after the concert. But then we go through 4 really interesting concepts that have been on Kyle's mind. And what I love about it is it sparks ideas. How are you connecting with your students? How are you connecting with your feeder programs? What are things that Kyle is experiencing as a first-year teacher that can reignite your excitement for this incredible thing that we get to call a job? So this episode is brought to you by our friends at the Kinnison Choral Company and Kaleidoscope Adventures. And I don't have anything else to say because I want you to hear from Kyle. Thanks so much for listening. Today on the Music Ed Matters podcast, we are back for our second installment, part 2 of Chronicles of a First-Year Teacher with my friend, Mr. Kyle Feather. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
I'm so excited to see that you are still looking happy and cheerful as a first-year teacher. Congratulations.
I know my hairline hasn't receded yet. I still have all my hair. So,
well, is it still fun?
Oh yeah, still fun. Still swooshing around. You know, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome. And are you loving getting up every morning? What's become a routine that you can't imagine you didn't do before?
I think it would have to be like coming home from school, and rather than being like exhausted, I usually like return, and then I'm just like, man, how do I fix that? Or how do I do this? Like I'm always like reminiscing in my head. It's just a daily part of my habits to like think, should I have done this? Should I have done that? Like, I don't know. I'm not like second guessing myself. It's just class is kind of always in my head, which maybe is a good thing, or maybe that's a bad thing. I'm not certain yet. But
you're not there yet. That's okay. But you're in a routine, which is important.
Yes.
Well, before we get too excited, by we I mean me, before I get too excited about talking to you, remind some of the listeners, they can go back and listen to episode part 1, number 120, but tell the listeners real quick, who's Kyle Feather and why are you a music teacher? What are you teaching? Where are you? All that stuff.
Yes. So Kyle Feather, first-year teacher. I'm at Denton High School in Denton, Texas. I just graduated from the University of North Texas, and the school is just about 5 minutes, maybe a stone throw away from the university. So more or less expecting to be anywhere in the DFW area, and just so excited to land somewhere that is familiar and easy. And kind of I guess the beginning of this was we met this summer doing that summer camp that Chris Muntz runs, if I can remember.
Cantorai
KC.
Summer Choral Institute. But y'all, I still think the coolest thing ever is that Kyle was there volunteering just so he could see how it worked and to be in the process. He was like the best intern. So present, so active. And I think that's the beginning where I was like, okay, I need to know this dude because he knows the power of asking and making time for things. And it was just so cool to meet you up there.
Likewise. I'm glad we get to do this together. It was such a great idea too, to just kind of join up and kind of for me to talk about the ups and downs that is the first year, because I think so many students go into the first year and they get the experience perspective and they get the guesses from, classmates or from peers, but not someone that's really in the trenches. So I'm just glad that I can offer that experience to your viewers.
I'm so excited. I know my students who are about to go teaching, they're listening to this. Both of my student teachers who graduate this December have jobs. They're very excited.
Oh,
And
yay.
so it's been fun sharing this with them, but also we sometimes forget or block out that first year of teaching. And I think it's so fun to chronicle it and just have those memories all over again. I know after our last conversation, I think I was just chuckling the rest of the day thinking about all the crazy things I did that first year.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
there's so much that there's so much that I look back on already just from the first few weeks that I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
okay,
But
wait,
like,
wait.
yeah,
I
you,
want to know
you
what some of those things are. We going to talk
sure.
about those on things that are in your mind?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Let's
Okay,
do it.
so y'all, we have two categories for today's conversation. One, an update on Mr. Feather's life in the classroom because he's had a concert. And
Mhm.
then we're going to talk about general things that are on his mind, which I think we have to talk about things you do differently. But let's go. You had your first concert on October 3rd. Give us
Yes,
the
I
play by
did.
play.
Okay, so first, let me say that my head teacher came back just a few weeks prior. Um, and
Oh, yeah, we should tell the listeners you're in Texas where there's like multiple teachers in a
yes,
school.
yes. So I'm the associate director. So when when my head teacher came back, Caitlin Candler, um, we kind of started getting into performance mode because, frankly, the beginning of the year is kind of its own special time. So kind of getting that direction and kind of going, okay, so what does this first concert look like? I I kind of had deadlines in my head, you know, when repertoire would be ready to go, when students would be kind of prepared, notes and rhythms and tone and all of these things. Um, but there was so much behind the scenes that I would never have expected for that first concert.
Like
The
what?
first thing, we had a new performing arts center because we're at a new building this year. And basically all of the technology. No offense to Denton ISD, but all the technology was just a little bit slow. As in, not all of it was installed yet, not all of the training was done. As anyone could expect with COVID supply shortages, there's only so much that can come together when you are, you know, putting together these huge buildings and such. Um, so there was just a lot of in the moment flying by the seat of your pants and trying not to manifest that craziness to those kids that for a lot of them are singing their first choir concert in high school, if not ever. It might be ever
Right.
for some of those kids as well. So you know, that week of was just like a lot of butterflies for me. We were in a special situation. We did what was called a cluster concert. So we combined middle school and high school students together for one performance. And our our kind of freshman level ensembles sang similar music to the middle schoolers. So in a way, it kind of bolstered numbers and let students experience kind of a large group ensemble.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of nice because it took a little bit of like the performance pressure off for me. I think I conducted one piece, so you know nothing to be overwhelmed by. Um, but boy, like when I got off that stage after singing that first one, "The Dawn's Awake" by Laura Farnell, shout out.
Mm.
I was just, you know, you're just so proud of all those kids and all the work they've done and all the trials they've gone through because some of these kids, you know, it's learning how to read period music. You know, it's literally like a picture to them at first, and you have to explain all the terminology and going from that to sitting on the risers quietly in between songs or moving in a single file line from their seats to the performing stage. So um, a lot of things to find gratitude in these first few weeks. And I'm really glad that we've kind of established that habit now. So going forward, we can kind of build on the next step, go to level two.
So were the singers as excited as you were? Were they just so proud?
Well, some of those singers were pretty irritable because we were because we had them on the risers for basically the entire concert and we had a rehearsal beforehand. So a bunch of them were like, "Mr. Feather, aren't we going to get pizza?" And you know, I never promised pizza, but I think in the future I will definitely be bringing some pizza for my kids because they more or less got a little bit hangry. No, the concert was great though. The music music was wonderful. It was well done. But
Lesson number
definitely,
one.
just a few of those like first year teacher things. And, I tell Chandler this all the time, like, I'm going to forget one thing a day at least. So just having like not holding myself and killing myself over, forgetting something like pizza to a concert or just like some level of preparation, I think is important for me to keep a good mentality for one, but also to keep those students maintaining a positive mentality as we go into the year.
I love how positive you are as you approach it. It makes I mean, we teach music for a living. Like our big thing is a concert. How cool is that?
That's so
It's
cool.
just,
It's so
it's
cool.
so refreshing to see the positivity and the excitement behind all of it. So, biggest takeaway from concert number one, pizza? Is that your biggest takeaway?
um, the biggest takeaway of concert number one is um, the concert can sound whatever you want it to sound like, but it's all of the things around the music itself that I think sets apart concert one. It's all of the preparation in how performing happens. It's all of the behind the scenes and the teaching and discipline that you've built with the kids.
Oh, that's
And
good.
that's what I was proudest about that first concert. We did not sing every note beautifully. We did not. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was that they could go up there and with their best friends and with friends from other schools and from younger siblings, they could sing with each other and see what making music at DHS can really be.
What a great. Okay, these are good takeaways. I'm writing them down so that you don't forget them either. I'm going to turn them into quote cards because part of this
Right?
whole chronicling thing is so you don't forget all these moments.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so you get back from the concert and it's time to pick music for your, hold on while I use a Texas word, your NV, non-varsity tenor bass choir.
Yes.
So first of all, can you tell us non-Texas people, what does NV non-varsity mean?
Yes, non-varsity is just a fancy schmancy word for saying it's a entry-level ensemble, usually freshmen for high school. So
Okay.
the reason you call it non-varsity is because every year in Texas we sing we sing music from UIL, which is essentially a prescribed music list. There's probably an equivalent like a state large group festival or something like that in your state. But for us, the music that you get to choose from depends on the ensemble that you bring. And ensembles can be called varsity or non-varsity. So that's really the reason why it's called that. The ensemble itself is called Vivace. But for us, it's a non-varsity choir. So we have certain repertoire from certain lists that we bring, and that's why it's called that. But it's interesting that in trying to pick music for my group, I thought about what they were successful at with the fall concert, and I thought about what took just forever.
Okay, what were those things?
Yeah, well, it's easier to say it in the moment, but let me see if I can remember some things. So, with specifically a tenor bass choir, the difference between everyone being on the same page and 25% of the class not being on the same page is the difference between you learning literature at like 300% speed and 100% speed. Like, essentially, if you are not right with your guys every moment, you lose an incredible opportunity to go through music really quickly, because when they're focused, they will just blaze through stuff like it's nothing. So I think my challenge was in picking literature was thinking, what were those moments in those pieces that we did in the fall concert where it took us 30 minutes to learn 8 measures? And what did those measures look like? Did they have these crazy jumps? Did they have syncopation? Did they have range extensions beyond our normal voicings? Those things where you have to kind of there's more that goes into it, and you
versus
want
just
to
singing through it.
Yes, versus singing through it. And you don't want music to be super easy. You don't want it to be super hard. You kind of want an in between. But it was important for me to give music to my kids that they could figure out in some ways kind of more on their own. Because going into this next concert cycle, it was important for me to establish more musical independence and more responsibility on the singers to create a kind of an automated classroom. They know exactly what to expect, and if I wasn't there, they would be able to run rehearsal on their own. Now that's a very generous, that's a very lofty goal.
Lofty goal there,
yes.
But you're working towards it, which is so cool, and you do it through the repertoire and through your routines and those habits and stuff. Okay, so what are you picking now? Because you've had your fall concert. Next up is a winter concert.
Yeah, winter concert. So first of all, let me say that once again, I'm a first-year teacher, so I make so many mistakes. And one of those mistakes was I originally programmed, I kid you not, no holiday music for the holiday concert. So that was a big facepalm. I was like so excited. I was like, I have these great pieces that are going to fit my ensembles well. And then fortunately, Miss Candler gave me some much needed advice. Hey, Mr. Feather, you may want to program a holiday piece for the holiday concert, which is like one of the joys of like being able to collaborate with an experienced teacher in an assistant position. So thank goodness now I have an additional piece, a holiday piece that we'll be doing. But the music that I'm programming for the winter concert is Michael Trotta's Omnia Vincit Amor, Mark O'Leary's arrangement of Sisere Eye, which is like a New Guinean, a lot of movement and percussion, just a lovely piece. And then there's the winter piece, I think it's called Winter Wonderland, by John Perry. And then the fourth one is I'm Bound Away by Moore, arranged by Moore. But all of those pieces, fortunately, all of those pieces are kind of in the wheelhouse where there are difficult sections, but the whole piece is not difficult, if that makes sense. So you can alternate between, like, I think about it kind of like a workout. You can alternate between like high intensity workouts and like low intensity. So because those boys, like, they are athletes, like they are totally athletes. So you can't just bring your boys into the gym and be like, okay, we're going to jog, we're going to walk around the track really slowly. Like, forget it. Those boys will not do that. You need them like sprinting. They need to do burpees. Then they need to like run in place, do some jumping jacks.
I'm there.
You know what I'm saying? So, and like, but like the core of that is just like empathy, like just trying to read the students that come into the room. And I feel like I'm figuring out more of that every single class, because you have a student that comes into the room and you see them have a great day. What do they look like when they have a great day? What do they look like when they have a bad day? How do you respond to those students when they come into the room? And I think great teaching is just that. The student, like, it was Monday, which is yesterday. Yesterday was Monday, and yesterday was Halloween. So this is not the day after Halloween. This is the day of Halloween. So the students are excited. They're all there, which means that, like, I was not expecting Monday to be as effective. I thought they'd be tired, but because of Halloween, first year teacher, I can go back and think to myself when I'm teaching in the future, oh, Halloween's coming up. They're probably going to have more energy because they're excited for the evening. We're probably not going to be missing kids, because who goes on vacation during Halloween? Or who has a doctor's appointment the day of Halloween? Like, forget that.
Really valid points.
So I don't know. There's just, and my, forgive me, my brain is just very eclectic on these things, but it's trying to find patterns. And when the patterns make sense, then your world makes sense. And some of those boys, they still don't make sense just yet, but you just keep on trying to listen to them and hear what they give you, see what they give you.
That's great advice for first-year teachers and 20-year teachers and beyond. I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, the core is the empathy and knowing what's in front of you. And you've done such a great job at that. And look at the flexibility that you're modeling as you add your holiday piece. I'm going to want to know how the holiday piece went among everything else when we check in on part 3.
Okay.
All right, so you've been picking music, you've been rehearsing the music, you're seeing lots of progress, you're making mental notes. Note to self, lots of energy on Halloween. All students are
Yeah.
there. Day
Yes.
after Halloween, how was it? Were they like dead as doorknobs?
Well, today is we alternate between A days and B days. So I did not have choir today. This is
Okay,
Tuesday now, the day after
yeah.
Halloween.
Okay, so note to self for next year. Hardest
Yes,
day on the planet to
the day
teach.
after Halloween.
I personally think is the day after Halloween.
Okay.
My students are like, sugar overload. I'm not making any sense. I didn't really go to bed last night. Like, I am a big advocate for late start on Halloween day after. Like, come
Gotcha.
on, let's celebrate All Saints Day and go in for a half day. Starting at
Okay.
1. Let
Yes.
everybody sleep.
Well, maybe I must have picked the wrong day because I'm getting observed by my principal on Wednesday. So we'll
Good
see
luck.
how that goes.
Hopefully, all the sugar highs should be down-ish by
Be
then.
relaxed by
They'll all
then.
be so tired tonight. They'll go to bed early. They're going to be great for you.
Okay, good.
You're gonna need to send me a text and let me know how that observation goes. That's tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
It's
Yes.
so exciting. Okay. All right. Back on topic. We've asked you for an update on life. We're adding this whole principal thing as an update we're going to need.
Okay.
Let's talk about some general things that you've had on your mind. And there are 4 of them.
Sure.
Right. So, number 1, building musical skills versus retention and long-term investment in the students.
Yeah. So maybe I should give a little bit of context. I spend about, so even though I'm the assistant at the high school, I have some off periods. So I spend some time at the middle schools. I'm very fortunate that I can travel and work with the middle school kids. And in going into that environment, you see kind of a different landscape because well, I don't know this to be the case for certain, but it seems that those students require different skills, different strengths. Middle schoolers generally do.
Very much so.
Lower
Yeah.
attention span and going through that development and such. So a lot of my job is trying to bridge the joy and the fun that you experience in middle school with some of that long-term positive affirmation and fulfillment from hard work and grit and resilience. So I think I've mostly experienced it at those middle schools where if I'm leading a sectional or something like that. I have to once again respond to the kids in the room and find ways to inject joy and humor and humanity into each and every one of the lessons because at the middle school level we can't all agree on how long a half note is or how long a quarter note is sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like
True.
we can't always agree. We don't always have that shared experience within us because we haven't experienced it yet. For a lot of us, it's new. So I think the pushing musical notes and musical rhythms when I'm helping lead sectionals or helping teach the class, it's something that I have to kind of balance. Am I pushing the kids and are we accomplishing a lot? But are they maybe not enjoying themselves as much or are they wearing out? Do they get tired? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're choir. Should our students leave our room exhausted going to the next class or excited? Is there and there's probably an in between. There's probably no right or wrong answer. But like whether it's middle school or those TVs, trying to find a balance of push and relax and push and relax, so the students can have an experience that means something to them, but so that we can have an experience that I know when they come up to the high school, they're not, flailing their arms around going crazy.
I understand.
Yeah, I know there are habits and patterns in place so that the transition into high school music is intuitive and easy for those kids. And that's where kind of retention builds in. Like you want them to stay in the program so that you can continue to shape them and help them.
Well, first of all, just bravo for taking your non-on periods in the high school and going and exploring the middle school, because that's so important. And that's such a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to build those relationships with their feeder programs. And that already is easing some of the uncertainty of those middle schoolers going into high school.
Mm.
that what will it look like? What will it be like? So bravo, that's step one, building those relationships. But I love what you said, that it's kind of a dance between push real hard, pull real hard. When I talk to my students about planning for secondary, middle school versus high school, I call it the number of camel humps that you can handle.
Mm.
You're going to have a lot more camel humps the younger the kids get, because they need the understanding of a game or some type of tangible piece. Now, I'm not saying that they can't handle learning the incredible terminology or performing with musical excellence, but the way in which it sticks, and you, like you said so perfectly, build the musical skills, has to be tied to something else sometimes.
Mm.
And so, for example, the middle school I was just doing in Mississippi, we had hamster wheels and glitter bombs and unicorn horns, and we grew cathedrals, and we were eating club sandwiches instead of McDonald's hamburgers. And
Mm.
all of that had to do with phrasing and vowels. And I
Mm.
would not use some of that terminology with a junior or senior.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably not even utter those words out loud, but I could look at the Sopranos and be like, "Stop eating McDonald's hamburgers!" And they'd all open their mouth really huge.
Yeah.
And so I think part of it is just, how are you connecting to them? And you said that perfectly. It's, again, reading who's in your room and addressing them. So playing with analogies, getting their input on it. How would you want to sing this phrase? And then they realize they can't even sing it like they want it to sound, because they're still learning breath control and vocal technique and how to handle every different type of sound and shape and color that they can create. So I think this is super cool. It's like a science experiment with just the joy of singing for retention and investment.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
Well, it is so interesting though, like, because you get so much constant feedback from your students as you teach them
Mhm.
as well. And
If you're willing to receive it.
that's true. If you're willing to receive it. Yeah. But all of that feedback that the students, all the responses you get from them, um, it will it will absolutely point you in the way of good teaching, is what I
Mhm.
found as well. Um, and it's often those students that in those first few days you feel like, man, they are really going to push my buttons this year. But are they really pushing your buttons, or are they pushing you in the right direction? You
Yeah.
know?
Highlighting some challenges for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so good. And, this all feeds perfectly into your next general thoughts that you've had on your mind: establishing vertical alignment and supporting feeder programs.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because you obviously have in your mind what you want them to know by the time they get to your non-varsity tenor bass choir.
Mm. Well, I will be honest, like, I have some vision, but what I lack is definitely practical experience.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad that Miss Candler and I have the chance to talk about, like, we talk about tone, we talk about like so many components of teaching, and being able to think about, like, knowing her experience and being able to help the students find their pathway to reach what I think will give them the best experience in high school is good. Um, and that really, I think I owe to her, because I can talk about something, but I haven't truly experienced it yet. It's the teachers that have been there for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years that really know. But yeah, on the concept of like middle school, um, I'll say it, like, middle school teachers, they are some of the hardest working teachers in our profession. Especially here in Texas, a lot of high school teachers a lot of high schools have two teachers.
Mhm.
Middle schools usually have one director. And
Mhm.
boy, does that make a huge difference. I mean, there's just so much weight on them, and they're teaching constantly. And lack, um, they so often lack like free time to like reflect, much less lesson plan. There's just
Mhm.
not a lot of reprieve for those teachers. So in some ways, I hope that by coming down to the middle schools, I can help and provide some assistance, but I can also provide some relief. Not that I'm not teaching these classes on my own, but um, it is really hard for these. It's just hard as a teacher to teach 40 kids at the same time or 25 kids at the same time, and they're all spinning in different directions. So
Yeah,
just having another person
especially
in the
middle
room.
schoolers.
Yes, yes. Having another person in the room just, I think, helps you feel like you're not alone, and also lets me use my vocal model, which is helpful.
Mhm.
Both of my feeder teachers are females. They have soprano,
Oh
alto, both.
yeah, so you're a
So
gem. You can come
yes,
in and sing in there. Oh,
I'm in the
yes.
falsetto all the time. I'm like singing all the TB stuff, and all the TBs are like, "Yo, you can't sing it like Mr. Feather," and I'm like, there's a reputation. It's
Yeah.
make it fun. So you're trying to show them, let them experience what a post-pubescent voice sounds like, right? An
Mhm.
adult, a mature voice sounds like.
Mhm.
Because a lot
That's
of
such
those
a
students
good
are like,
thing.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just singing high, and you know, um, a teacher can only model so well if they have a different vocal mechanism.
Yes.
So I'm glad I can provide that as well. I think that's definitely one of my strengths with those tenor bass ensembles.
I think for people listening, it's important to reach out to your feeder programs, whether it's middle school to high school or high school to middle school, and you're tapping into the things you're good at. Like, what are the things that you can bring to your feeder program to help with, I think, what we're seeing around our entire career, our entire population? It's the investment in long term. We need to get students invested in choir again and excited about choir again. And that's where the vertical alignment stuff matters. How are we going to keep climbing this ladder? Why do we even want to climb this ladder? Or, as you gave the analogy earlier, why am I even showing up for the choir workout?
Nah, the
That
choir
type of
workout.
thing.
There you go.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're on to question 3 already of things that you've been thinking about. I see that you're establishing a brand new class, a vocal jazz group,
Yeah,
and you've been thinking about marketing it as a recruitment tool for future students. So tell us what you've been thinking about. Let's talk about it.
sure. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of guidance. First of all, Denton High School has a big jazz program. It's established, it's been there for quite some time now. The assistant director of bands, Jesse Woolery, he kind of oversees that world. I'd say he's kind of the one, kind of behind the curtain on that. So I think being able to work with him and kind of see what his vision is and see how the jazz singers can collaborate has been an important first step. And at the beginning of the year, um, at the beginning of the year, all the band directors are going crazy with marching band. And
Mm-hmm.
as I'm sure you know, whether you're in Texas or not, marching band is just kind of a crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
Just long, long hours and full weeks and weekends included. So um, I was fortunate that he gave me a lot of flexibility and a lot of kind of agency to try and start the group on my own. And we just started working through some easy vocal jazz tunes, some Roger Emerson, some Darman Meter, and some a cappella stuff because the jazz band is still getting the wheels spinning, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Marching band is kind of the king right
Mm-hmm.
now. But as we've gone through the year, we've figured out a name for the group, the brand new group. We're the DHS Jazz Singers. We did some performances at the beginning of the year. We did like a jazz festival. And now we have a jazz concert, which is going to be all the jazz bands and the jazz choir. And that's coming up on November 14th. And then we sing at the fall choir concert as well. So our students got to see some of the jazz choir in action, and some of the students I know in my class said that was one of their favorite performances that they got to see because we're always singing choral music. It's fun to play with different styles.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just glad that we can be an ensemble that maybe can represent the choral department and the jazz department and kind of a collaboration between the two.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
attract new kids into new stuff. I think that's so cool too. Just the possibilities of the sounds that we can create. I think, again, like we said earlier, it's getting people back on the ladder of choir.
mhm, mhm.
And if that's through vocal jazz, if that's through something else, I think that that's all I care about is that people are singing together and making songs that are bigger than just one voice,
Mhm.
which is so cool.
The something else that I think will benefit us is we are singing on all of our middle school feeder concerts with the jazz group.
Cool.
So
What
I
a
think
great
that'll be,
idea.
yeah, I think it'll be a good opportunity for the middle schoolers to be able to kind of, kind of see themselves in some of our singers. I just know that was something special for me and a lot of my friends in middle school and high school, getting to see a student in a group that was singing something special and go, man, I really want to be in that group.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of excitement, I think, can keep people on the bandwagon and improve, retention and recruitment at the same time. So,
That's a really easy thing too with the smaller ensemble to get in there
mhm.
and travel. What a great
Well, oh
idea.
my gosh, and we have some of our songs are a cappella, but some of them we bring in keys and bass guitar and a drum set. So you just have like a
Little
little crew
trio.
with us as well. Yeah, a little trio. So I think, just featuring all of that is just going to be so cool. And microphones, oh my gosh, we haven't even figured out what microphones are going to look like. Because once again, technology, we still don't
Mm,
have everything. We still don't
that's
have
right.
everything lined up yet. But I think we'll be doing some mic work as well. So there's just a lot of new and a lot of difference. So it's not, don't believe me, it's not over. It's
I
not over.
know. I
You
want
haven't
to.
missed
So
the beginning.
we're gonna
Yeah.
need an update on the principal observation, and we're gonna need an update on the DHS jazz singers.
Okay. Okay.
100%. We only have one question left. I can't believe it already.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You said you've been spending time thinking about redefining classroom norms and expectations, especially after the first concert. And you kind of hinted on this earlier when you said it's about going from level 1 to level 2. Tell us a little bit more about where you are with defining these classroom norms and expectations after that first concert.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and everyone tells me this, but it's different to experience it than to hear it. It's harder to establish expectations after the first concert as opposed to the beginning of the year because they've
Mm-hmm.
experienced it for a portion of the year one way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that doesn't make it impossible, though, and I think if you are just really clear and consistent with how you implement change, then
Mm-hmm.
students can evolve to that. So, like, one of those things was like um, trying to um, learn about how tone should best be taught to those kids through
Mm-hmm.
warm up and then integrated into sight reading and then integrated into repertoire and streamlining that vertically up and down. So, um, it's something that um, something that I've borrowed and have benefited from is doing little consonant and vowel exercises every day, little like tongue twisters of sorts to work on how we produce sounds and how we could incorrectly produce those sounds. So, like
Mm-hmm.
consonants or vowels, where does your tongue go? What does the space feel like? And then just some introductory tone, experiencing forward resonance, and
Mm-hmm.
then like lip rounding or playing with the embouchure, corners in, and then creating space in the back. So having streamlined terminology so the students know exactly what something means when it is explained.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's kind of been level two.
Yeah.
Um, and I think expressing it to those kids as level two also helps them change their mindset. It keeps them in a
Level
growth
down.
mindset. Yeah, thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to the next level here, as opposed to this wasn't working or we're doing something different now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just sat down my kids the day after the concert. We did, listening and kind of reflected on the concert. And I said, hey, I just sat down and I told them, like, very frankly, um, we have a lot of potential in this class, and we've accomplished an enormous amount already in this first concert. So now that I know that where your potential is, I'm going to raise those standards to meet that potential so that we can accomplish those goals. So, incorporating sectionals into class every day, having students take responsibility for learning the notes and rhythms, and me providing feedback to them. So I'm a facilitator rather than a teacher. Not always, but at times. So, hey, why don't you lead sight reading? So you'll count off, chant through the solfege, and then try singing it on your own. Here's your do, right? And then having different
Empowering.
groups lead and go at their own speed, but helping those students to know that the music making does not end when I am not in the room.
Mm-hmm.
They are the musicians. And when they graduate from high school, they'll be able to make music on their own without me. I think if I've done my job right, then
Yeah.
they will. So
That's like
so
my
yeah,
number
just
one goal
trying
in
to
life.
yeah, well, that's the hope. But
That you can
yeah, just
enjoy
trying to get
music
them
forever without someone in front of you.
uh-huh.
That you know what
Well,
direction to go.
well, and the like a cappella, trying to experience a lot of the musical sensations in an a cappella sense, I think has helped them as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of takes away the hand holding that well, not always. There are times when assisting them helps, but I think that step after this concert has been really helpful to them, just because they feel a sense of pride in knowing that it's really them. They
Mm-hmm.
can take full responsibility for their success. But yeah, there are a bunch of other things as well. Just trying to remove seams and like transitions during classes. So going straight from warm ups into sight reading. So like once I put a sight reading up on the board, the expectation is they go silent and immediately start using hand signs. They figure out their first solfege and start using hand signs. So if I can if I can kind of taper my warm up, if that makes sense, my
Mm-hmm.
final warm up right into sight reading going on, or having them do like an exhalation drill or something while they're working on sight reading, removing the transitions is
Mm-hmm.
what keeps people from getting off the train, right?
Yes.
It's what keeps those students from going, I think I want the next 25 seconds of my time to be occupied by that corner over there, or whatever it may be, because we don't know what's going through our students' heads.
No.
All you can do is just try and gently guide them and move them in the right direction.
I
So,
love that you're putting so much student focus, student centered approach in this first year of teaching. It's so hard, especially for early teachers, to get out of the way. And I'm so excited to hear that it's working and that you're trying things. And you've dropped some really great quotes that I can't wait to revisit and get on some quote cards. And just watching you go through this first year is invigorating and fun. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing it. You always get to share one thing that matters at the end of the podcast. What is the one thing for this part 2 of the Chronicle?
for part two, it is what is familiar is usually what is comfortable, but what is comfortable is not always what is best. And
Mm,
at the beginning of the year, there have been times when I felt very comfortable, and I've been very fortunate to receive guidance that may not have made me feel the most comfortable, but I look back on with so much gratitude for. So just always trying to push yourself in a new direction towards the unfamiliar.
I love it. Oh, Kyle, I'm so excited for you. You've made it one whole quarter.
I have made it one whole quarter.
Next time we'll talk, it'll be maybe after the semester or after your holiday concerts. You let me know, whatever works with your schedule. This has been awesome.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on and hearing my spiel.
All right, my friends, try to find the pattern. Find ways to empathize and understand what's in front of you and be flexible, and pivot, and have fun. I think that's what I love recording these episodes with Kyle so much. He is having so much fun. When we first turned on the Zoom before we pushed record, I asked how it was going, and he just, with all the excitement, it is surreal. I still love it every day. Y'all, this job is so much fun. Yes, it is hard. It is hard work, and we acknowledge that in this episode. But it's also amazing what these singers are capable of doing. So I hope that you know that you matter. We all know that music matters, especially all the learning and the fun that happens in that first year of teaching, or 30th year of teaching, or 57th year of teaching. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.